What's up guys, MissPass here, back with another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes commentary video, and today I am going to teach you guys how to solo Phase 1 of the Heroic Rancor as a free-to-play player. The nice thing about all of these characters, aside from Phasma and Teebo, they're all available in different locations, so you can get them all as a free-to-play almost at the same time. Now, Teebo's basic is really the only ability that needs to be omegaed for this really to work, and that is so that you get the 100% turn meter removal. His leader ability is not so imperative that you omega it. However, if you do omega it, you do get a 50% chance to gain turn meter at the end of your turn instead of just 25% chance to gain turn meter at the end of your turn. Otherwise, you can still get the 55% chance to gain stealth. Now, my Teebo is only gear 8, so he only has a 56% potency with mods, and that's even with only a Mark 1 cross mod to give potency. If I had Mark 5 cross mod to give him more potency, I could probably get that up to about 60 to 65%. The next character that you really want to have on the squad is Ewok Elder. Now, Ewok Elder is a little bit flexible. You can use a different character like Hoth Rebel Scout if you want to, but I think Ewok Elder is the best character for the job because his basic attack has a chance to give Teebo 25% turn meter and all other allies 10% turn meter. Ewok Elder also removes negative status effects, so he can remove the death mark off of your allies. And if somebody happens to die, you can always revive them with the Ewok Elder. The Ewok Elder does not need to be any further than Gear 8, and honestly, Gear 8 is probably even a little bit much there. Captain Phasma is the third character on my squad, and the reason I use Captain Phasma is because I like to have Victory March. Victory March is nice to have, and of course her AoE inflicts speed down. You do have to omega that to get it up to 90%, but it does hit fairly often when you get it to stick. My Captain Phasma's potency is up to 72.86%, which means that that speed down hits and sticks fairly often. I usually don't have too many problems with speed down not sticking. Qui-Gonn Jin is the fourth member of my squad, and I use him because his basic attack, when omegaed, deals physical damage with a 65% chance to strip 30% turn meter from the target. He also gains turn meter, which means he's going to go faster and faster, even though he's already up at 150-something speed. His potency is very easy to get up to 100% nearly, and that is with pretty meaningless mods. I mean, you can get him up to almost 100% fairly easily, and he's a very easy character to gear max. Honestly, probably one of the easiest. The fifth character in your squad can literally be almost any character in the game. I choose Geonosian Soldier because Geonosian Soldier gains 50% turn meter whenever he crits, and his assist ability is usable every other turn, which means that you can get an opportunity to possibly call either Qui-Gonn Jin or Teebo, basically a 50% chance to call one character who is capable of stripping turn meter every time you use his assist ability. Now, the really nice thing about Phase 1 of the Rancor is that normally if you start this off right before your raid starts or right before you're allowed to start posting damage for your raid, you don't have to worry about other people posting damage and taking away from Phase 1, so you can retreat and start over until you get good RNG as many times as you want. I will retreat and start over on Phase 1 pretty often. It's not uncommon for me to retreat and start over maybe 3 or 4 times every time I go to do Phase 1, just because if you start off on the wrong foot, you're fairly often not going to finish off on the right foot. So I like to start over Phase 1 if, for instance, my Teebo doesn't go stealthed right off the bat. I also will use a retreat function if my Teebo doesn't stay stealth for an extended period of time. Now, obviously, if you're 50% into Phase 1 or 60% into Phase 1 and you go through a short swath of Teebo having absolutely terrible RNG, then you're probably not going to want to start over. You're probably just going to deal with it, push through it and deal with it. But like right there, I always like to see Teebo go stealthed right off the bat, and then of course being able to just kill all these pigs without having to really absorb a whole lot of hits is always nice. Unfortunately, Teebo didn't stay stealthed, but, you know, hey, you can't have your cake and eat it too, so he did go back stealthed again real quick there, so it is handy to be able to have that function available to you. The retreat function when you're doing phase 1 is really handy, so don't be afraid to use that retreat function in order to get yourself started off with a good RNG. Now, I'm sure you're sitting here going, Mist, your Captain Phasma's speed down was resisted. Why didn't she start over? Well, the reason is, there you go. It comes back up around fairly quickly. You can survive at least a while without speed down. It just makes life that much easier when you do have speed down on the Captain. That's why a lot of people tend to use 5s instead of Captain Phasma. However, I believe that her tool set is better than 5s. Plus, if you have 5's basic Omega'd, whenever the Captain has speed down and 5's double taps the Captain is gaining 10% turn meter instead of 5% turn meter. And in my infinite wisdom, I Omega'd 5's basic, so I don't use 5's on my squad for that purpose. Even though 5's is a little bit more reliable to keep the speed down on the Captain, again, like I said, it rarely ever comes around to the fact where that speed down gets resisted twice in a row. I also try to make sure that I am renewing speed down anytime the Captain takes 1 turn. Captain Phasma's speed down lasts for 2 turns, so if the Captain does get to take a turn, the first thing I try to do with Phasma is put speed down on the Captain. Like, renew that stuff right away, because that way I have at least 1 more turn, potentially, to let the Captain go before Phasma can try and put that speed down back on the Captain. So like right there, I renewed speed down. That was the intent. I wanted to make sure that the Captain will go another 2 turns with speed down. So that's why I'm not a big fan of 5's, and that's why I like Captain Phasma. Plus, Captain Phasma puts defense down on the Captain, which means that he's going to take a little bit more damage. Plus, on top of those 2 things, Victory March is very, very handy to have in your side pocket, because if the Captain is getting really close to taking his next turn and Teebo is still just a little ways away from getting his next turn, you can always use Victory March to give that extra turn meter boost to hopefully put Teebo up before the Captain takes his turn so that Teebo can strip all of that turn meter away. Now, the methodology behind using basic attacks only is because that's where most of the utility of all of the characters on this squad exists. Now, I will sometimes use Qui-Gonn Jinn's Harmonious Assault whenever the Captain's turn meter is really, really low. Otherwise, I try to use Qui-Gonn Jinn's basic attack exclusively. I very, very seldom will use his Humbling Blow, his second special ability, unless the guards are up. If the guards are up and they're taunting, obviously having Qui-Gonn Jinn in your squad is extremely handy because he can strip that taunt away so that you're not being forced to focus on the guards, especially the left-hand guard as you're looking at him who puts Retribution up whenever he taunts. You definitely want to have Qui-Gonn Jinn available to strip the Retribution and the taunt so that you're not getting hammered by those counterattacks. So to kind of recap the strategy that I use with this squad, I focus on using only Ewok Elder's basic attack for the turn meter gain for the squad. I will only use his heal ability whenever somebody has Death Mark and the Captain is close to getting a turn, or if that individual falls out of stealth. Which brings up another good point that I should share with you guys. Death Mark can be quote-unquote hidden from the Captain and his guards by stealth. An individual with Death Mark, as long as they are stealthed, will not be targeted by the Captain or his guards if they happen to take a turn. So you don't need to have Ewok Elder on your squad, which is why you can use a character like Hoth Rebel Scout, who has turn meter gain for his entire squad built into his basic. Scarif Rebel Pathfinder also has turn meter gain for his entire squad built into his basic attack. So those are two
decent choices to replace the Ewok Elder. Scareful Pathfinder also has some negative status effects built into his abilities, so he may also help enhance your squad in that regard. Now, this squad is really only going to help you clear Phase 1 of the Rancor raid. If you want to solo the full raid, then you will have to get Rex. You can also try gear maxing your Teebo and possibly giving your Ewok Elder just a little bit more survivability to survive the slams in Phase 2 and Phase 3 and Phase 4. But Rex ideally is who you will want to have on your squad to really make sure that you can finish the whole raid. Soloing the whole raid, you can get pretty deep into Phase 2, maybe break into Phase 3 with a Gear Max Teebo, getting his potency up to about 85 to 90%. Ideally, you want to get it up around 100%, but Gear Max Teebo, you can easily get to 85% potency, and you can probably get deep into Phase 2, probably into Phase 3, but I haven't seen anybody solo or really come close to soloing the Rancor raid without Rex. And the good news for all of you free-to-play players out there, Rex is finally obtainable. Realistically obtainable for you and me. Rex will be the first character that I obtain from fleet shipments. Now, I do not actually recommend farming a character from fleet shipments until you have worked on your ships enough to really honestly get yourself ready or staged to obtain the Zeta mats. The Zeta ability mats are available through the ship challenges, but you have to have a 5-star Executrix, which is Grand Moff Tarkin's capital ship, which means that you have to have 5 4-star dark side ships. So 5 4-star dark side ships. Then you have to have 8, yes, 8 5-star ships. 5 4-star dark side, 8 5-star. I know it's confusing. Lots of numbers getting thrown at. I'm confusing myself. So you got to have some pretty beefy ships in order to clear the Zeta ability mat challenge. And not only that, but it is recommended for level 75 plus or 78 plus. I can't remember. It's not going to be easy. So you have to work on ships for quite a while, honestly, to be able to get yourself up to that point. Now, after you've cleared the Zeta ability mats challenge and you have your fleet however leveled you want to work on it, I mean, you can literally stop farming ships after you finish the Zeta ability mats challenge, because really honestly, right now there's nothing beyond the challenges and the arenas for ships. So if until they make any announcements, they being EA, make any announcements about ship inclusive raids, I wouldn't worry too much about doing anything beyond having 8 5-star ships, a 5-star Executrix, so that you can get those Zeta ability mats, because Zeta ability mats, they're as good as gold. Imagine the value of the Omegas right now. Zetas are easily many times more valuable than Omegas. Not only do you need multiple Zeta mats per ability, but they take a little while to farm. Even after you get that Zeta ability mat challenge knocked out and you can get them 3 times a week, you're still not going to be able to Zeta an ability for probably a couple weeks. I mean, it'll probably take 2 weeks to farm enough Zeta ability mats in order to get one ability Zeta'd. But once you do finally start rolling in the Zetas and you've got your fleets all farmed up and you're not focusing on ships anymore, and you are actually making the decision to go farm characters from the shipments, fleet shipments that is, I would definitely recommend farming Rex first. not just for the Rancor raid or anything else, but simply because Rex, in my opinion, is one of the most valuable characters out of fleet shipments. Aside from Darth Vader, because Darth Vader honestly is only obtainable via Shard Shop or fleet shipments, I would definitely recommend maxing Darth Vader. I love my Darth Vader at 7 stars. He basically helps me clear my galactic war every day. I love 7-star Darth Vader. He's pretty awesome, and with TIE Fighter Pilot and Emperor Palpatine, which Emperor Palpatine event coming back December 23rd, make sure that you got your Rebels rocking, because he is definitely a dark side Empire character that you will definitely want on your team. Once you get your Emperor, Darth Vader, TIE Fighter Pilot, if you have Shore Trooper, even 4-star Shore Trooper, I have seen 4-star Shore Trooper holding steady on my Arena Shard in the top 50. So a 4-star Shore Trooper is probably good enough, and then you can pretty much throw any 5th character onto that squad and just do incredible work. If you want another tank, throw in Royal Guard. He's an Empire. We'll get the added potency to stick that stun. But I'm getting off the beaten path here. Basically, Empire teams are awesome, so definitely go get Emperor Palpatine. But Darth Vader, so you want to get your Vader shards from the fleet shipments. And honestly, I would probably interrupt ship farming when you see Darth Vader shards in the fleet shipments, just to get your Darth Vader up to 7 stars, because he's a very long grind. It took me almost a year to get my Darth Vader up to 7 stars. Hopefully it doesn't take you a year to get him up to 7 stars. Once you have started farming characters out of fleet shipments though, if your Vader is at 7 stars, or even while you're farming Vader to 7 stars, I would definitely recommend Rex, top priority, Sunfax, second priority, and then I've even seen Darth Maul with his new tool set, with his new abilities and the way they've kind of tweaked him just a little bit. He is actually a lot better than he used to be. Jumping back on topic now, the Rancor that you've been watching in the background there, you noticed that I went to airplane mode to prevent posting damage. The way that works is once you've actually jumped into the raid and maybe you're doing a practice run, or maybe you are just kind of experimenting with a different squad, and this works for any of the raids. So if you're experimenting on the AAT raids especially, airplane mode works out especially well for this scenario. So what you do is, once you've loaded into the raid, you can turn on airplane mode. And what airplane mode does is it basically causes a connection error if your squad happens to completely die, which honestly happens fairly often in the AAT tank raid, because it just seems inevitable that the enemies just keep on going, and your characters never get a turn, and so you never get a chance to retreat. If your squad happens to die and you have airplane mode on, what it'll do is it'll say you have a connection error. If you do not want the damage to post, what you do is you force stop your app. You basically force close Galaxy of Heroes, and it will prevent that. It'll be like that run never happened. If you are satisfied with the score that you got and you want to post that damage, then all you have to do is turn off airplane mode, and once you establish either a Wi-Fi or a mobile connection to your device, you can hit try again, and it will post the damage, and you're good to go. So you can see here, I'm pretty much coming up on the end of this run. Unfortunately, Ewok Elder was the first one to go, and so I went ahead and retreated, and there's my connection error that I was telling you about. So what you do is you basically turn off airplane mode. Since I was able to retreat, turning off airplane mode establishes a connection again, and it will let me retreat. And I didn't post any damage, but you notice that I got about 20% into phase 2 with that run, which probably would have ended up being about a 2.2 million damage run on the Rancor. I'm also pretty stoked to announce that I have launched my Patreon site for you guys. If you're interested in a few little perks that I've got for some Patreon subscribers, head on over to there. The link is in the description below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, favorite, subscribe, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and I will catch y'all later.